Sundays because Sunday is the day to stream on Sundays. I truly hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Sunday morning because holy cats, it has been a terrible last 24 to 48 hours, depending on how you measure things. I will not be recapping the events of the last day or so, as it is and will be more than enough in your world for the foreseeable future. Only to say that, I mean, for all the celebrities that in the last couple of days have passed away, but as well for the firstly the individual whose life was taken at the rally, and the two people who were critically injured, and as well for the injury, thankfully relatively superficial injury to former President Trump. Yeah, that's all I'll say on that for the most part. Conversations elsewise will happen later, or already happened last night on the Discord server. But all that being said, I thought, hey, let's. I'm sure there's more terrible things both happening now and in the near future, but hey, why not just take a break, focus on some silly or ridiculous things for a little while, and just take a breather. All the terrible stuff will be there for us when we're done, and need a little bit of distraction and catharsis before I try to complete the rest of my weekend and go into my vacation. Yes, the next 2 weeks I am on from work vacation. The next week in particular, I will be out of town and out of pocket. So there will not be a TED Excellence this coming week, nor a Sunday stream. The timing just didn't work out correctly. So if you don't see me on Twitter, if you don't see me on Discord for the next few days, that's why. I'm fine. It's not an absence dealing with something terrible, thankfully. It's just a long planned excursion, and I'll be back next Sunday, and then I have an additional week off thereafter, which I'll be doing all sorts of things, streams, and I've got Living on Borrowed Crime at the end of that week, and otherwise just relaxing away from work. This is my first real vacation, my first actual, like, I don't have to worry about doing work vacation in, I want to say 10 years. I know that sounds crazy, but that's the reality of it. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to try to take as much advantage of it as I can. Anyway, with that programming note out of the way, who's joining me on this beautiful Sunday morning for a little fun and distraction? Josh Hammond, good morning. Darren Root, good morning. Roasted Opinions, good morning. Meh, good morning. Noah Asensio, good morning to you. McClellan, LOL. Good morning. Keeverdam, good morning to you, and thank you, Keeverdam, as always, for providing the links to the GoFundMes and fundraisers elsewise for our friends Moonshock, Natalie, Angela Ariaga, Rhonda, and Ashley. If you guys can take a look at those when you have the opportunity. If you can donate, please do so. If you can't, that's fine, but if you can, share those out on social media. That would be appreciated. And thank you always, Keeverdam, for providing those. Bry Guy 508. Good morning. Random American, good morning. Jaeger Pony, good morning. Advocatus Diaboli, good morning. Mike R, good morning. Mike Savage, blarg. Who else is here? Scrolling. Zed the Snarky, good morning to you. And Derek LaRue, good morning to you. And thank you, Derek, as always, for your continued support and generosity. Very much appreciate it. Hope you're having a good weekend, and hope you enjoy the show. Thanks again. Old Guy Gamer, good morning to you. Kiro Soldier, good morning. Hey, Scribe, sorry if I was getting out of line the last 2 times on Discord. I don't recall that you were, so I guess you weren't. There you go. Good morning, Kiro Soldier. Fostonia, good morning. The Best Remy, good morning to you. Who else is here? Anybody else? Scrolling. Angelverse, good morning to you. Simon Willikins, good morning. The Blakester, good morning. John Miller, good morning. Matthew James, good morning. And thank you, Matthew. You will be missed. I almost gave my reflexive response when I hear something like that. And I will tell you that I stopped myself before I said it, because I was at least cognizant of the context in saying so. But when someone says, you will be missed, or I will miss you, or something, my reflexive reply always is, only if your aim is off. takes on a different connotation right now, doesn't it? But it is all meant in good humor regardless. JMK, good morning to you. Who else is here? Spy Demand, good morning. Michael Sander, good morning. Urkele De Stefano is lurking. He's Lurkele De Stefano this morning. Sabian 187, good morning. Super Mutant 2099, good morning. And Shadowclaw, good morning to you. And anybody that I missed, anybody who's lurking otherwise, anybody in the future, good morning. Okay, so what I've got, I'll tell you the plan. I'll lay it out for you ahead of time. I've got 3 silly articles, and I've got, since making up for lost time, since I won't be here for this coming Thursday's usual TED Excellence, I have a surprise TED Excellence. Bingo card will be A, so get your bingo cards ready. Links are in the description below, but I'll get to that shortly. Just getting you prepared. Octane Junkie, good morning to you. So yeah, a couple of silly stories to distract, and then we'll do a TED Excellence to distract. You ready? Let's go. Alabama woman, 108, stays young by flirting with men with mustaches. Well, as long as you set your sights low enough, I suppose anybody can be happy. Also, Twisted Skipster, good morning. John Trioxin, good morning. Faustonia, holy cats, thank you so much, Faustonia. Appreciate it very much. Kudos to you, Scribe, for changing up the script a bit this weekend with something a bit different. We are getting fire hose with the obvious, and it's nice to switch gears. Yeah, yesterday, for various reasons, I mean, it was something else. My sister and I visited our folks yesterday, and on the way there, and my sister came, picked me up. We go over to get some, she needs to get her coffee. I need to get my morning cocoa. And just within the 2 blocks it took to get from here to the Starbucks, we had about 3 or 4 close calls. Like the sun was in our eyes, and then some like bicyclists appeared out of nowhere. And then some people were being stupid in the parking lot, and we had to stutter and stop and all. It was like, I thought before I even like got going, I was like, is today just cursed or something? And I was joking. The trip otherwise was fine. The visit with our folks was fine. And then we got delayed on the way home. And in the middle, we call our parents to let them know. It's like, oh, we got here and things got clogged up, so we're going to be late getting home. And my mother's like, she tells us the news over the phone because she just watched it. And it had happened about 2 minutes before we called our parents. So it was just right on the button. Anyway, like I said, I don't want to dwell on it. But man, it has been something else. And so, yes, I inundated with that stuff all yesterday. I just need something different. Also, good morning, Lee Anthony Davis. And good morning to Ham and Beans to you. All right, anyway, so Alabama woman, 108, stays young by flirting with men with mustaches. An Alabama woman celebrating her 108th birthday offered an unusual answer to how she keeps herself feeling young. Quote, drinking wine, eating dessert, and flirting with men with mustaches, unquote. I'll tell you, if you've hit 108, I think you can do just about whatever the heck you choose to do. So if you want to spend your days drinking wine, eating desserts, and flirting with men with mustaches, I don't think anyone could complain and be taken seriously. Helen Denmark turned 108 on Sunday, and she was celebrated with a party Monday thrown by her friends and caregivers at Brookdale Assisted Living in Birmingham. Denmark said she doesn't feel any older than she did when she was 107 and told WDHN-TV she says she stays feeling youthful by drinking wine, eating dessert, and flirting with men with mustaches. The centenarian said she still feels healthy and strong. Quote, well, I feel all right, she said. I'll be here when I'm 110, unquote. The U.S. Census Bureau estimated there were about 101,000 people over the age of 100 living in the country as of January, and that number is expected to quadruple to about 422,000 by 2054. And good on Helen Denmark for her longevity and also at her age, her mental clarity. That's the one thing. That's the one thing I fear about everything else. It's like, well, if my body starts to shut down or I get a little feeble or whatever, I guess that's just the way of things. But please, oh, please, oh, please, let me retain my wits. Given my family's history, my odds aren't good, but fingers crossed, knock on Formica, that either my luck or medical science will allow me to retain my sensibilities as I grow up. But there you go. Yes. So Helen, Denmark. Helen, Denmark. That's our first story. Nice, pleasant little story. Sure. Let's move on to our second story. This one's for the feminists out there. I saw this and I thought, who else could this be for? Yes, some animals can have babies without a mate. Here's how. Yeah, parthenogenesis. I think that's the term, isn't it? Parthenogenesis. Or is there parthenogenesis like, yeah, I think that is without a mate, right? Just kind of happens. A boa constrictor in the UK gave birth to 14 babies without a mate. Is it a miracle? The result of a secret rendezvous? Is it the immaculate constricception? That was my own addition. Probably not. Females of species have the ability to reproduce asexually without sperm from a male. The process is called parthenogenesis, from the Greek word for virgin and birth. I learned something in school, and I repeated it correctly. My education was it was so useful. Some plants and insects can do it, as well as some amphibians, reptiles, birds, and fish. A stingray named Charlotte, I'd love to see that Charlotte's Web, that was thought to have become pregnant by this method, died this week, at an aquarium in North Carolina, though she never delivered, and it is unclear if she ever was pregnant. Well, that's an interesting addition. So a stingray, a female, I'm assuming, was thought to have been pregnant, but then passed away, but they're not sure if she ever really was pregnant. So why include that in here? Unless to say that stingrays can do this, but why use that as an example? Okay. Some wasps, crustaceans, and lizards reproduce only through parthenogenesis, but in other species it's rare and usually observed in captivity. It tends to occur in situations where females are separated from males, said Demian Chapman, who directs the Sharks and Rays Conservation Research Program at the Monta Marine Laboratory and Aquarium in Sarasota, Florida. Or Mote Marine? That's a Mote Marine. Whatever, in Sarasota, Florida. The boa, back to the actual subject of this article, the boa constrictor. The boa in the UK, a 6-foot, 13-year-old Brazilian rainbow boa named Ronaldo, gave birth last week after having no contact with any other snakes for at least 9 years, according to the city of Portsmouth College, which kept the snake. One way parthenogenesis can occur is when a female's egg fuses with another cell, often a cell left over from a process that allows the female to create the egg. That cell, known as a polar body, gives the egg the genetic information it would normally get from sperm. The cell starts dividing, and that leads to the creation of an embryo. It's unclear how prevalent parthenogenesis is in the wild, Chapman said, but it has happened outside captivity among small-toothed sawfish, an endangered species in Florida's coastal waters. Quote, we think the females reproduce like that on some occasions because they haven't found a male because there are so few of them, unquote, Chapman said. Or they're just detestable and lonely. Like crabby liberal white women or something. Offspring from parthenogenesis have less genetic variation, Chapman said, you don't say, which can lead to developmental problems. Quote, a litter produced by sexual reproduction is usually much larger than one produced via parthenogenesis if it's an animal that gives birth to litters, unquote, Chapman said. Quote, and you will often see individuals in that litter produced by parthenogenesis that don't develop correctly in some way, unquote. Well, yes, if your mother is also your father, that does limit your possibilities genetically. It's true. There you go. I reminded myself that I knew what the word parthenogenesis meant, and now we know. And knowing is a constant source of disappointment. I thought that maybe they were going to talk about the possibility of humans being able to reproduce through parthenogenesis. Then you would have a true miracle or a religious event, or both, I suppose. I guess a miracle is a religious event. I don't know why I just said that. Anyway. So there's your science for the day. Our third story. I'm just rolling through these quick. I thought they were longer. That's what she said. Anyway, how about some art fraud? You guys like art fraud? I know I like art fraud. Well, not really. I mean, I'm not. Anyway, these Picassos prompted a gender war at an Australian gallery. Now the curator says she painted them. Oh boy. Can you believe it? Fraud, art fraud, everybody. Dear Alexander, good morning to you. Scarlet, I don't want to be on the stream anymore, LOL. I walk into weird science. It's not weird science. Parthenogenesis is a known thing. It's not weird. You're ridiculous lunatic. Good morning to you. Let's see. Fosha T-shit. Okay. Women can be impregnated without breaking the hymen. I assume that to be true. I will take your word for it. Kay Shoal, good morning. And Roan Harushin, good morning to you. I miss anybody else? Oh, Tex Bishop X, good morning. And I think I think that's it. Oh, wait. Lupus Albus, Misfit Lisa. And is that, oh, Lurking Gopher, good morning. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody that I could see. If I have missed you, let me know and I'll say hello. Anyway, let's talk about art fraud. In this undated photo provided by the Museum of Old and New Art, or MONA, Kersha Cacelli poses with a painting in Hobart, Australia. Cacelli has divulged on July 9th that she was the creator of 3 paintings she presented as the works of Picasso. Well, I mean, what's not to trust about someone who puts themselves forward like that? I guess we'll see. Wellington, New Zealand. They were billed as artworks by Pablo Picasso, paintings so valuable that an Australian art museum's decision to display them in an exhibition restricted to women visitors. Oh, only women could view these paintings? Well, how sexist. Provoked a gender discrimination lawsuit. Interesting. The paintings again prompted international headlines when the gallery rehung them in a woman's restroom to sidestep a legal ruling that said men could not be barred from viewing them. Well, how vindictive and childish. No, you can't restrict the viewing of these things only to women. Fine, we'll hang them in the ladies' room. Then you can't. But the artworks at the center of the uproar were not really by Picasso or the other famed artists billed as their creators. It emerged this week when the curator of the women-only exhibition admitted she had painted them herself. So not only is she a activist, but also a fraudtivist. Great. Kersha Cacelli, wrote on the blog of Tasmania's Museum of Old and New Art, or MONA, on Wednesday that she was revealing herself. As the work's creator after receiving questions from a reporter and the Picasso administration in France about their authenticity. Yeah, imagine advertising an exhibition showing Picasso's works and, you know, the actual people who deal with Picasso's works go like, wait a second. Where'd you find those? But they had been displayed for more than 3 years before their provenance was questioned, she said, even though she had accidentally hung one of the fake paintings upside down. Well, it is a Picasso. Or not a Picasso, but a fake Picasso. I mean, and the fact that nobody questioned anything for 3 years really just adds to their authenticity. You know, it's sort of like someone being in the country illegally for a decade and then somebody complaining that they'd never break the law. You know. Quote, I imagine that a Picasso scholar, or maybe just a Picasso fan, or maybe just someone who Googles things would visit the ladies' lounge and see the painting was upside down and expose me on social media, Cacelli wrote. But no one did. Well, I mean, so you knew what you were doing was wrong, and you defrauded 3 years worth of visitors and whoever on the basis that they were seeing something that you faked. Is there going to be a lawsuit? I assume there's going to be a lawsuit. The saga began when Cacelli created a women-only area at MONA in 2020 for visitors to, quote, revel in the pure company of women, unquote. Yeah, nothing more pure than a liar. And as a statement on their exclusion from male-dominated spaces throughout history. And so you faked the art of a man in order to show the purity of women. Okay. The so-called ladies' lounge offered high tea, massages, and champagne served by male butlers and was open to anyone who identified as a woman. Can't imagine if there were any problems caused by that policy over 3 years. Outlandish and absurd title cards were displayed alongside the fake paintings, antiquities, and jewelry that was, quote, quite obviously new and in some cases plastic, she added. Yeah, I mean, it all has a really tacky ambiance, doesn't it? The lounge had to display, quote, the most important artworks in the world, Cocelli wrote this week, in order for men, quote, to feel as excluded as possible, unquote. Yes, including Pablo Picasso himself. It worked. I guess Mona, famous in Australia for its strange and subversive exhibitions and events, was ordered by the Tasmanian Civil and Administrative Tribunal in March to stop refusing men entry to the ladies' lounge after a complaint from a male gallery patron who was upset at being barred from the space during a 2023 visit. Well, hey, dude, all you had to do was say, I identify as a woman. And then they'd have to let you in. But oh well. Quote, the participation by visitors in the process of being permitted or refused entry is part of the artwork itself, unquote. Tribunal Deputy President Richard Gruber wrote in his decision, which found the exhibition was discriminatory. Well, it was a really long journey to reach that conclusion. Gruber ruled that the man had suffered a disadvantage, in part because the artworks in the ladies' lounge were so valuable. Cocelli had described them to the hearing as, quote, a carefully curated selection of paintings by the world's leading artists, including 2 paintings that spectacularly demonstrate Picasso's genius, unquote. 2 paintings that spectacularly demonstrate Picasso. I guess if you really, really want to split hairs, she didn't say they were painted by Picasso, simply that they demonstrated his genius, as in inspiring her to copy them. That's a very, very interesting word choice there. I'm impressed. The tribunal ordered Mona to cease refusing men entry. In his ruling, Gruber also lambasted a group of women who had attended in support of Cocelli wearing matching business attire and had silently crossed and uncrossed their legs in unison throughout the hearing. One woman, quote, was pointedly reading feminist texts, he wrote, and the group left the tribunal, quote, in a slow march led by Miss Cocelli to the sounds of a Robert Palmer song. Is she addicted to love? By any chance? Their conduct was, quote, inappropriate, discourteous, and disrespectful. And a bunch of other words that start with DIS. And at worst, contumelious and contemptuous. Whoa, contumelious. I think Mr. Gruber might be an English major. I haven't seen that word in forever. I was at a loss of words myself there for a second. Rather than admit men to the exhibit, Cocelli, who is married to the gallery's owner, David Walsh, well, no wonder she got away with it for 3 years, installed a working toilet in the space, turning it into a women's restroom in order to exploit a legal loophole to allow the refusal of men to continue. International news outlets covered the development in May, apparently without questioning that a gallery would hang Picasso paintings in a public restroom. However, The Guardian reported Wednesday that it had asked Cocelli about the authenticity of the work, prompting her confession. A spokesperson for Mona told the Associated Press that the gallery would not supply more detail about the letter Cocelli said she had received from the Picasso administration. When AP asked Mona to confirm that the statements in Cocelli's blog post titled Art is Not Truth, Pablo Picasso, well, your art isn't truth anyway, were accurate, the spokesperson, Sarah Gates Matthews, said the post was, quote, truthfully, Kirsch's admission, unquote. The Picasso administration, which manages the late Spanish artist's estate, did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Quote, I'm flattered that people believed my great-grandmother summered with Picasso at her Swiss chateau, where he and my grandmother were lovers when she threw a plate at him for indiscretions of a kind that bounced off his head and resulted in the crack you see inching through the gold ceramic plate in the ladies' lounge, unquote. Cacelli wrote this week, referring to the title card in one painting. That is a group of words right there. Quote, the real plate would have killed him. It was made of solid gold. Well, it would have dented his forehead because the real plate is actually a coin, unquote. Okay, this lady is about mixed bag of nuts right there. I hope that the Picasso administration or whatever sues her for fraud, misrepresentation, etc. Oh, who's in the chat? It's Satsu 2 cents. Hey, Scribe, did you hear that Donald Trump fell during a rally? I did hear something about that. I heard that he tripped and fell over an ear of his or something. Oh, and by the way, do you know about my friend Satsu? I think you might should. I think you might should. Boy, what part of the country am I in right now? I think you might should know about my friend Satsu. This is my friend Satsu, aka Chef Tyrone, founder, owner, and CEO of Oishi Fried Chicken LLC, featuring a new line of signature spice mixes. Chef Tyrone's homemade blends are the perfect gateway to delicious fried chicken or any other protein you might prefer. These recipes were painstakingly tested in Tyrone's home kitchen to bring you all the fantastic flavors you and your family can enjoy. The current flavor lineup includes original, spicy, lemon garlic herb, barbecue rub, and taco seasoning. You can buy individual packs of your favorite flavors or save some money with a variety bundle, all through the online store. And Oishi Fried Chicken ships nationwide. Go to www.oishifc.com and order today. Yes, there's my friend Satsu and his business, Oishi Fried Chicken. So if you are a foodie or know someone who is and needs some spice mixes, check out Oishi Fried Chicken and help out Satsu in building his business. Johnny Hellcat, good morning to you. Really making use of the word of the day calendar. I know. I mean, that was something else. That was my favorite part of that article, aside from the absolute nonsense of the fraudster. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what happens to a art fraudster. I mean, she didn't sell the paintings to anybody, so it wasn't like she, defrauded someone directly. But for 3 years, she has this whole hubbub over this exhibit over fake paintings. And then whatever that explanation was at the end. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so there you go. A little art fraud for your Sunday. And let's see, anything else? Anything else to come like? Oh yeah, I guess I have to do this now. Pardon me a second while I get some. Let's see, what should I do today? Should I do Cosmic Marvel stuff? Should I do Classic Sunday Stream or Psychologist Couch? What do you guys think? Do we want Cosmic, Couch, or Sun? You guys choose. That will be the theme I will go with. And in the meantime, let's see. Satsu's looking pretty fly in that toque. Yes. Chef Tyrone. He's an actual chef, everyone. Certified. Graduated. Let's see. What do you guys think? Couch, Cosmic, or Sun? Make your choices. I'll see. The first couple of choices will tell me. The first people in the chat to tell me, I'll make that decision. Okay, and Josh Hammond screws up everything. Cosmic casting couch. Well, I mean, certain items of my furniture have been referred to in that fashion in the past, but that's not what I'm talking about here. That's not what I'm talking about here. T.R. Alexander says Cosmic. K. Scholl says Couch. John Miller says Sun. Well, guys, it can't be an even spread. Cosmic Couch. I don't have a Cosmic Couch. I got Couch. Satsu's, Oishi, OISHIFC.com, everybody. I think you can put the link. Yeah, you're a mod. You can put the whole link in the chat there. Okay, I'm going to put Couch. I'm going to put Couch. Or maybe Cosmic. Cosmic Couch. Now I have to make a Cosmic Couch. I don't have a Cosmic Couch, but I'm going to have to make a Cosmic Couch, for crying out loud. You guys just make everything complicated. Why you got to make everything so complicated? Anyway, speaking of complication, let's find out about DEI as a catalyst, fostering systemic change and embracing the world's complexity. Boy, that sounds That sounds all sorts of coherent, doesn't it? I mean, when it comes to DEI, I guess the only way you can really try to sell it to people now is to make it sound far more academic and highbrow than it actually is. Anyway, today's bingo card is bingo card A. A as in I decided to do with my executive authority to choose bingo card A rather than run a poll. So get your bingo cards ready. Links to the bingo cards are in the description below. I'll give you guys a second here and see what else you have to say before I get moving here. Darren Root, honestly, Cosmic Couch sounds like a band name. A brand name, band name. Well, either way, Cosmic Couch is fine. A sunny Cosmic Couch. Okay, so I'll have to do a mashup. I'll have to make a mashup overlay of a psychologist couch in a cosmic realm with a big bright sun. It gives me something to work on when I get home. Advocatus Diabli, which card? A, Advocatus. Your first initial, A. So get your bingo card A's ready. And let's find out in our replacement TED Excellence. For the TED Excellence, I will not be here to host this coming Thursday. DEI as a catalyst, fostering systemic change and embracing the world's complexity. And all of that is going to be explained in just over 10 minutes. Here we go.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, how's it going?
All right. It's nice to see you. Thank you for having me. I wrote many different versions of today's speech.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you're thoughtful enough about what you want to present. But speaking of what we're about to present, let's remind ourselves before we begin what we are looking for or listening for in the presentation. Bingo card A, collectivizes own demographic, systemic or institutional. Well, the word is used in the title, but we have to hear him say it. Sales pitch for product or service, childhood or family anecdote, diversity, equity, and or inclusion. I think that's a given, but we'll wait. Plays victim, microaggressions or unconscious bias, privilege, contradicts own point or argument, patriarchy, weightless example, economic disparity, feminism, marginalized or marginalization, a list, remember that has to be some kind of formal list as part of the presentation, white supremacy, word salad, self-vilification or wretchedness, argumentative non sequitur, attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase, mind reading or assumes motives, benevolent condescension, anecdote that probably never happened, and lastly, leaves out vital context. So that's what we're listening for. Let's proceed.
I think over the course of time, editing it down, thinking what's most important, having the perfect sentences down, only for me to be like, I will probably not use any of this today.
All right. Well, DEI as a catalyst is part of his display up there, and that is part of the presentation. So I'm going to count it and circle diversity, equity, and inclusion. And also the word systemic is up there, so I guess that's official as well. So circling systemic or institutional, and just for the heck of it, circling free space because, well, it's free. So on the board, systemic or institutional, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and free space. And we haven't even really started yet.
So what I was trying to refocus on was like, what are actually the things that keep bringing me back to this topic, right? And something that was constantly circling in my mind are the things that people say to me as soon as they hear basically what I work on and what I do.
Okay. I often ask myself what constantly brings me back to this topic being DEI. Why am I so obsessed with DEI? Well, I'll tell you why, and I think I've said this before. Given sort of like the tempo of culture that I grew up with when it came to fair play and fair treatment in America, I was under the impression that it was wrong to evaluate and provide opportunities to people simply on the basis of their appearance. I was kind of brought up in that mentality, watching old black and white videos from the 50s and 60s of people being shot with fire hoses in riots and things because they were the wrong color, or being denied certain things because they were the wrong color, water fountains and the like, and even worse. And I looked at that stuff as ancient history because when you're like 6 years old in a first grade class looking at old movies and newsreels and things, you think that's how people used to behave, and it was terrible. And I thought people don't. That's how people used to think. Of course, I got wiser as time went on, but all the same, with the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and everything that's happened since, my idea was you're not supposed to treat people like that anymore. And yet here we are. And every single time I come across somebody new who is trying to justify to me the value and virtue of revisiting the worst parts of our society's traditions, I get curious to find out, well, what is this person's angle? What are they going to say next? How are they going to try to spin this to make it sound like a good thing and that it's not a bad thing and that it's actually defeating a bad thing with a bad thing? That's what keeps bringing me back to DEI. I guess I'm in a trap. I can't walk out. Because I love you too much, baby.
Do you really, really think that your little anti-racism workshop is going to change the world?
I don't know. Do you? But I have an answer for you. It won't.
That sentence and many others that are similar, I have heard so many times at so many different parts, in so many different parts of the world.
Why do you think that question is asked of you so often? Why? Do you ever stop for a second and ask yourself, maybe I'm wasting my time? At best, and at worst, maybe I'm contributing to the problem I'm saying I'm defeating.
So many different times in my life. But basically, it doesn't even matter who it is, because on one hand, you would think, okay, this is probably CEOs, MDs, politicians, right-wing voters.
Okay, I don't know why this lady is so excited to film this guy. I guess maybe she just doesn't want to watch it on YouTube or something. Also, there's a couch over here. And it's well lit, so I guess it's a sunny couch. Not quite a cosmic couch. But that background looks like corrugated cardboard or a cheese grater. It's kind of distracting.
MDs, politicians, right-wing voters, also people who think that advocating for humanitarian rights, for example, human rights, is basically just a waste of time or something that has some sort of agenda.
No. You're not advocating for human rights by having an anti-racist workshop. You're associating yourself with something that, at least abstractly, is a universal good, human rights. But that's not what anti-racism is. So you conjoining yourself to something that's demonstrably a good thing when your thing is demonstrably a bad thing, that's a little bit of cope on your end, I think.
But I also heard it from activists, academics, people who actually work in humanitarian organizations and volunteers.
Really? So even people that work in, at least ostensibly good and positive areas of human rights and human services ask you that question. Okay, so did you stop and have a moment of reflection? Did you allow for the possibility that you could be wrong?
What is clear is that oftentimes people think DEI is a waste or just basically like something that distracts us from certain things.
Well, as non-specific as that was, I will agree, it is a waste and it is a distraction. And not a positive cathartic distraction. It actually distracts us from truly progressing forward as a society. It's dragging us backward. But okay, your counterpoint to the naysayers is
either profit or, for example, success, or maybe some leftist secret agenda, something conspiratorial.
Oh, there's nothing secret about it. It's become less secret over time because few, if any, consequences have befallen those that practice it, especially in corporate America, education, or politics, or the Secret Service, which may be something I look at a later time. But anyway, you were saying,
or as well as like global general issues, or some things that we simply think cannot be handled at the workplace, right?
Well, at least under U.S. law, what DEI does should not be handled at the workplace, lest you risk federal violation.
So I think what was important to me is to kind of remind people what DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, is actually about. What it's
by all means, remind me what it is really about.
Is that it's a comprehensive approach of kind of recognizing and appreciating diversity while creating inclusive and equitable environments.
Okay, you don't define a term by using the term in its definition. Let me tell you why DEI is good. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is good because it promotes diversity and equitable outcomes in an inclusive environment. No. We have diversity to make the aesthetics of everything appear far more progressive just on the basis of, well, appearance. We have equity in order to make sure that everybody has an equal outcome so we can pretend that the diversity part leads to success across the board. That's the insidious thing about it, because if you actually institute a program or a situation where you have equality of outcome and you can show, look, everybody's doing so well, then you can further justify to yourself the discrimination you implemented in getting your workforce to look a particular way in the first place. And anybody saying that, oh, well, hiring people on this basis is unfair, like, no, it's not. See, everybody's fair now that we've engineered everybody to have the same outcome. Yeah, it's all cope at the end of the day.
Now, that doesn't mean that there's no limitations to this. Because oftentimes what happens is exactly what I do right now is I'm trying to convince people that this is important.
Okay. By all means, convince me.
I'm like, oh, this is important. We need to talk about it. Diversity is important. Equity is important. All of these things are important.
Why and how? Why are they important and how do you implement them? It really does come down to the how, though. Just saying this is good, diversity is good. Well, all depends on what we're talking about. Inclusion is good. Depends on what we're talking about. Equity is good. What do you mean by equity? How do you make them happen?
And then it kind of stays at that stage. So one limitation oftentimes is that we're stuck in this like phase of awareness, but we don't really get into action.
What are you talking about? DEI has been implemented across the board over years now. I'm coming up on my 8th year on YouTube, and I've been covering DEI stories since practically the beginning. Okay. I'll call it 7 years just to be safe, because those first couple of months of 2016 that I was doing this, I was doing other stuff, but at least since 2017. All right. This is not a new conversation. This is not something that's mysterious. And I suppose it's only mysterious because people keep trying to justify it and keep falling over themselves, trying to convince people of its usefulness, as you are doing now. Do you think maybe that's a sign of something?
4 years ago, at the height of DEI's upcoming, there were many speakers who spoke about these things. One of them was a sociologist called Anthony Jack. He did a talk, also a TED talk, which was called X's Ain't Inclusion.
X's Ain't Inclusion? Did I do that talk? That sounds familiar. A TED talk. What was the name of that again? What was his name?
A talk, also a TED talk, which was called Height of DEI's Upcoming. There were many speakers who spoke about these things. One of them was a sociologist called Anthony Jack.
Anthony Jack. I'll know if I see his face. Anthony Jack TED Talk. Yes, access and inclusion. Yeah, I did that one. Yay! I did that one. This was the guy talking about food availability on campus or something, I think. Yeah, and he told a story about he and his brother, I think, going to the college campus. Or I hope I'm not mixing things up. I might be, but either way, I recognize the individual. I know I did that TED Talk years ago now. All right, well, hey, the chickens come home to roost a little bit. All right, so I vaguely believe I remember this. Yeah, access ain't inclusion. That was the title of the TED Talk. I don't know the title of mine that I used at the time. but it's in the playlist somewhere. Okay, access ain't inclusion. All right, so I'm vaguely familiar with this.
Who spoke about these things. One of them was a sociologist called Anthony Jack. He did a talk, also a TED talk, which was called Access Ain't Inclusion. What he was pointing out is that it's nice if we understand that these things are important, and it's nice for us to understand, okay, we have to move from knowing things to actually doing things. But then we have to understand that just creating access, just inviting people into the structure is not going to be enough.
Well, no, they have to take the initiative on their own to walk in the door and then earn their place within the group. It's called equal opportunity. This is the difference between equal opportunity and equality of outcome. If the door is open, I have to make the effort to walk through it and then earn my keep within. That's what it is. So I guess if you're going to equate inclusion with just being given a free ride and not having to work for what you get, then yes, access certainly ain't inclusion.
We can hire diverse people. We can make sure that we integrate all of these different types of people. But what do we do if we're not able to either keep these people in the structures or for them to be able to actually progress in these structures?
These people. Okay. The question I always ask rhetorically is, define for me a non-diverse person. All right, that'll take the veil off pretty quick. But okay, what do we do with these diverse people now that we've hired them? I don't know. Expect them to do the job they were hired to do? I mean, give them adequate training, bring them up to speed on what their job duties are, and then it's their responsibility to perform their job duties. Why do quote unquote diverse people need to be treated specially or thought of in some lesser manner of extra help?
Right. So what is needed is like a full revamp, or like an evolution of DEI that makes us understand we need to move from this educational aspect to like an analytical and action guided one.
Wait. Move from an All right. If you're going to offer a solution to the problem, you first must articulate the problem clearly enough that your solution makes sense. So if there is a problem with the way that DEI is currently being presented or delivered or whatever, you need to tell us what that is in detail, or at least in enough detail that you have counterpoints being delivered by your solution to said problem. What are you talking about? What do you mean DEI is only an educational thing? DEI is not and has not been an educational element for the entirety that I've been looking at it. It's been an active policy of particular behaviors and rules and quasi-regulations within companies, within academia, and politics. Actual people are being hired. Actual decisions are being made in a DEI lens. It's not about just handing out a pamphlet. Do you have any idea what you're talking about? I don't know. Also, it looks like the chat has stopped. Sometimes when I see the chat stops, I think myself, has the stream crashed? I don't see any activity. So if there's people still here, just say hi in the chat real quick, just to let me know. Oh, there we go. Keeverdam says hi. All right. I just want to know that I'm still on the air. Sometimes I get a little nervous. Sometimes.
And that's a challenge. It's not just a challenge for the organizations that try to do DEI. It's also a challenge for DEI consultants.
Yeah, DEI consultants are certainly looking for their next meal lately.
DEI is a young field.
Whoa. Hey, I usually make this point. Hold on. Back up. Yeah, that's hey, there's the evolution, sort of. Yeah, D ampersand I, DEI, DEIB, DEIS. I don't know that I know what S means. I've heard of DEIA as in access. I've heard of JEDI, justice, equity, diversity, inclusion. DEIS, is that like sustainability or something?
DEI is a young field, yeah? And that just underlies the challenges. Some of them I just mentioned, but it also just means that the field being young might also just be an opportunity, because it just also signifies this is a field that adapts to the constantly evolving things that we deal with, right?
No, it's a field that constantly has to justify itself and avoid the obvious questions of its origins. Every extra letter that is added on is meant to somehow impart an extra area of expertise on the practitioners with ever more abstract concepts: diversity, diversity and inclusion, diversity, equity and inclusion, diversity, equity, inclusion and belonging, diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging and justice, diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, justice and accessibility, and on and on and on. And if you have all these letters after your name and you're a consultant, well, now you're a jack of all trades and you're standing on a stage babbling incoherently, trying to justify your chosen field, which you cannot even define when you have no restrictions and no one's stopping you from being clear.
Right? For example, we look at the evolution from diversity to diversity and inclusion to diversity, equity, inclusion to diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and so on and so forth.
No, what was the S one? No, I wanted to learn something today. What is DEIS? What is DEI? I haven't heard of DEIS before. Is it sustainability? Is it like fabric softener? I mean, what is it? Also, Andy Masterson's in the chat. A true celebrity. Andy Masterson. Check out Andy Masterson's channel on YouTube. Also, Stevie J. Good morning. TC, good morning. Some hellos here. Tony Giff. Good morning to you. Did I already say good morning to Darren Root? If not, good morning, Darren Root. No, okay, again, all the extra letters are simply insulation against the true root of evil, which is the diversity component. The diversity component is the tree from which all the rotten fruit falls, because diversity means discrimination. Diversity means valuing people on the basis of their non-determinative elements rather than merit. And everything they've added after that is to try to insulate themselves and dilute the issue from anybody questioning it. Oh, how you wouldn't want to question diversity. Diversity is a great thing. Oh, but you wouldn't want to question. How dare you be against inclusion? You don't want to exclude people, do you? You're against equity? Why would you be against equity? Equity's like fairness. You're not an unfair person. On and on and on. It's sort of like Black Lives Matter as a name of a political organization. Are you against Black Lives Mattering? You know, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea is exactly as it says on the label. How dare you be against these things? You couldn't want to be an enemy against that kind of idea, would you? That's why all the letters are on there. It's not evolution. It's cowardice.
This doesn't mean that nobody really knows what it is. It just means
I just took a drink. I just took a drink as he said that, and I almost just choked. It doesn't mean nobody knows what it means. Of course it means nobody knows what it means. You can't define it. Even on a stage without encumbrance, you cannot define your own terms. You define DEI by saying it involves diversity, equity, and inclusion. You couldn't even, come on, man. Look, okay, I don't know this guy. I'm not a mind reader, despite my psychic moments, but I feel a level of sympathy for this guy in a way, right? Because like with so many things in life, if you've dedicated yourself to an idea, to a cause, to an agenda, that looked at, objectively, not subjectively, you can see that there are flaws in your argument. You can see that there are things that don't make sense or don't quite stand on their own. But of course, if you've dedicated yourself to this thing, whatever it is, and you've defined your virtue, your identity, your sense of self-worth, whatever it is around this concept or pushing this agenda forward, it is very difficult to be self-reflective and accept the possibility or even entertain the possibility that what you've been promoting for all this time is nonsense. or is unproductive or damaging in some way, right? I mean, I can understand that. The human ego is a difficult thing to go back on once you've set it on a course. So him putting his hand up to his head right now, him trying to sort of explain the unexplainable and try to convince the audience that what he's saying makes sense, even though it doesn't. I have a level of sympathy for him in the trap that he has put himself in. But the only way out is for him to listen to himself, listen to the difficulties he is having in explaining his own position. He holds his own red pill. The question is, will he choose to take it?
First, this doesn't mean that nobody really knows what it is. It just means that this is a profession, an area of fields that constantly tries to get in contact with what people actually are asking for, what people actually need. It's constantly re-evolving, right? It's constantly rethinking what is needed to make sure that we grant people access, but then also make sure that people actually stay in these structures.
Listen to yourself. Just listen to what you just said. Try to make sure that people stay within these structures. If you keep broadening the number of terms and definitions surrounding this thing, you can't escape it, right? Especially when your terms are so abstract. They're so universal. I always come back to the one where somebody says something to the effect of, I'm here to encourage empathy, right? I've made this this comparison before. If I'm a salesperson, let's say I'm trying to sell you something on the street, and you come up to me and I say, "Excuse me, sir, I'd like to tell you about the virtues of this product I have here." Right? Well, then what happens? What is the dynamic in that situation? Okay, I have the potential customer, and it is their judgment on the value of what I am selling based on my sales pitch of the value of this thing. So the onus becomes mine to convince this person that what I am selling has value. They don't know what this thing is when they're walking up. I have to inform them. Okay, now what happens if someone's walking down the street and say, "Hey, sir, I'd like to talk to you about empathy today." And I've attached empathy to whatever it is, whether it's DEI or feminism or, the moon is made of green cheese or something, whatever it is. If I say, "Hey, sir, I'd like to talk to you about empathy today." What have I done there? Right. Well, I'm saying that I'm promoting something that is one of the foundationary elements of human compassion. Right? It's the same thing with using diversity, equity, inclusion, Black Lives Matter, etc. Because I am making a declaration that what I am selling already has a demonstrable and provable value to it on a humanitarian level. And for this person walking down the street to deny wanting to talk to me about empathy, deny wanting to increase their empathy, well, now the onus is on them, because now they're being effectively implicitly accused, or they're being put on the spot to prove that they are a compassionate, foundationally humane person. It's a trick. It's a psychological trick of playing on someone's emotions. So when you say, "I'm for diversity, equity, and inclusion," of course you are. Why wouldn't you be? If you're defying me, what does that say about you? I don't have to prove what I'm selling. You have to prove that you're not a bad person.
Now, besides these limitations and besides having to explain people that this being a young field doesn't mean that it's not worth actually investing into it, there are some benefits, and these benefits are quantifiable. So,
oh, great. I love quantifiable benefits. Okay. Well, he's got a list up for those of you listening at home. He's got a card up. I'll let him go on, and I hope that he goes over all of them, because I can't wait to hear what the inherent and provable benefits are. And I certainly hope, I'm not looking. I'm very specifically not looking. I hope that this is not attributed to McKinsey and Company. I have my arm up over the screen. I see that there's a citation. I'm not looking at it. I swear to God, I'm diverting my eyes. If this is attributed to McKinsey and Company, I am just going to lose it.
So we do have typical benefits. Some are more social, some are more economical. We have strengthening conflict resolution skills. We have an improvement of the organizational climate, but we also have things such as increased employee satisfaction and retention.
Just inherently, none of those things could exist or have existed prior to the implementation of DEI.
increased market relevance and customer satisfaction. There's many benefits, and you will find a lot of proof for these benefits.
Could you provide some? You're just saying so. Do you have an active example of again, I say this, I've done this for so long now. Can you give me an active example of a company where their numbers were X before they started DEI, and then 6 months to a year or whatever after they started DEI, the business went to Y and it was a huge jump? And you have proof, and no other factors were involved in that improvement. I've been asking for that for years. Also, Keeverdam says list. You're correct. That is a list. Okay, is he going to come back to this chart, or do I have to go back to it? Oh, sorry, Keeverdam. Let me put that up on the screen. Thank you, Keeverdam, very much. And yes, you are correct. There was a list, circling list on the bingo card. You know, I'm also going to circle word salad because his definition of DEI previously using those words in its definition didn't make any sense. So circling that one. Okay. All right. So is he going to bring the chart back up?
Now, usually when I talk about these benefits, and if just we're able to convince people to even listen to me about these topics, what comes then is like, okay, do you really need DEI though to actually achieve these benefits? There's more.
Well, yeah, that's what I just asked. Like, these things could not exist or did not exist prior to DEI. Okay, what was that chart again? Sorry. McKinsey, I knew it. I knew it. How good gravy. First listed on there, McKinsey and Company, 2020. What do we got? Subharwal, 2014. Anybody else on there? Gallup poll. A whole bunch of people I've never heard of before. Okay, here are the benefits of DEI according to our speaker. Promoting a more inclusive society. No, it's a process of exclusion and valuing people on their appearance. Strengthening conflict resolution skills. How does DEI, like I said earlier, you can't just tell me the why, you have to tell me the how. How does it do these things? How does it accomplish these things? How does DEI strengthen conflict resolution skills? Improvement of trans and intercultural competence. Improvement of the organizational climate. Positive impact on employee health and well-being. Really, DEI improves people's health? Promotion of ethical business practices. Oh, you mean like violating Title VII and Title VI and the 14th Amendment on a regular basis? Yeah, sure. Increasing social acceptance and social capital. Promotion of learning and development opportunities. Yeah, to certain people who are worthy based on their melanin count or genitals most times. Improved innovation and creativity. I'd love to see proof of that. Increase in productivity. Why? Increased employee satisfaction and retention. Increasing organizational resilience. Is that any different than improvement of the organizational climate? Reduction of legal risks. The reduction of legal risk. When was this filmed? Good. Reduction of legal risks. Okay. I don't know if you want to talk to some of the schools, businesses, law firms, and fundraiser organizations out there about reduction of legal risks. Increased market relevance and customer satisfaction. Access to global talent and new markets. And global is in parentheses? What? And lastly, strengthening the employer brand. You're not going to tell us how any of this is accomplished with DEI, are you? You're just going to say it happens, but not provide any proof. Except for, sorry, a McKinsey and Company study from 2020. Because, you know, McKinsey and Company. Anyway, okay.
Customer satisfaction. There's many benefits, and you will find a lot of proof for these benefits. Now, usually when I talk about these benefits, and if just we're able to convince people to even listen to me about these topics.
Oh, I'm listening to you about these topics. I do nothing but listen to these topics. Person after person. Give me something I can work with. Come on.
What comes then is like, okay, do you really need DEI though to actually achieve these benefits?
Now that's the question. Do we?
More to these benefits than just having a diverse team, right?
You're correct. There is more to that than just having quote unquote a diverse team, especially when you define diverse by aesthetic.
right? And some people might tell me, oh, also DEI just seems like a more complicated approach to these topics. It just makes everything more difficult. It creates conflict. It creates division.
Yes, because people have to question, just like with affirmative action, whether someone is in their position or got their job on the basis of their merit or their demographic fit. How do you answer that one?
But the thing is, our world has been inherently complex.
What?
DEI is not introducing something new. DEI is highlighting something that is already there that we have constantly tried to oversimplify.
You're right. You're right. There's nothing new about DEI. There's nothing new about DEI. Workplace discrimination is nothing new. That's why we have laws prohibiting it. You're right. There's really isn't anything new about DEI. You guys keep adding words to it and trying to mix things around to try to make it sound new and innovative, but it isn't.
And to kind of ignore, right? And that actually leads to only certain groups of people having very beneficial lives and very good lives.
Groups? Oh, who are these groups? What groups are these? Not demographics, of course. We wouldn't want to talk about demographics, but groups, you say.
So it's not the acknowledgement of our differences that divides us, but the refusal to recognize and appreciate these particular differences.
Okay, how should I appreciate the difference in skin color one person to another? I mean, you tell me. What should I appreciate specifically when it comes to melanin count? I mean, what should I presume to know about a person based on their appearance in that way?
Because what it does is actually then creating an environment for all of us that's inclusive to all of us, that's equitable for all of us.
How about making non-determinative factors of someone's character irrelevant in our assessment of individual people? How about that? I mean, it has been put more simply and much more poetically in the past, right? To not judge someone on the color of their skin, but on the content of their character. How about that? How about we take that complexity and simplify it down to that very, again, simple, poetic credo.
Right? So let's say you understood DEI is important.
Okay, let's say that I do, which is a complete lie, but all right.
You know, we have to get from educating to action.
I still don't know what that means. What do you mean that DEI is just education? What is an educational element of DEI? What? To action.
To do more, basically. Then the next thing is kind of, okay, but what does it have to do with me?
Yeah, what does it have to do with me? I'm still waiting to be sold on this.
I'm good. I don't need to do anything. Life has been difficult, but not that difficult. And I feel like people just probably need to work harder, right?
Everybody's life is different. Everybody's circumstances are different. You know, my worst day might be a nothing to someone else. Right? It could still be my worst day. Having the sympathy enough and empathy enough for someone else to know that they're having their worst day, even if by comparison I think I'm having it easy or tougher. So what?
I think one of the things that people underestimate is the preventive aspects of DEI. It says here, one of the most compelling aspects of DEI is its universal benefit, a safeguard that extends protection and opportunity not just to the marginalized of today, but potentially to anyone in the future.
Let me try that again. One of the most compelling aspects of DEI is its universal benefit, a safeguard that extends protection and opportunity not just to the marginalized of today, but potentially to anyone in the future. Okay, well, on the board, marginalized or marginalization, circling that one. Okay, how? How? When you evaluate a diverse candidate for a job on the basis of their skin color, their gender, or their orientation, how does that serve as a protection and a safeguard? And would you like to address Title VII? I know this is taking place apparently in Berlin. maybe our speaker's not from America. Maybe he's not talking about American values and things. I don't know. But let's just say, how would he address Title VII in the United States when it comes to DEI? I'd love to know.
So one of the most important things is, and Hirachito's work, for example, said this, there's nothing in life that's as sure as change.
There's nothing in life that's as sure as change. Wow, that's deep. Yeah, death and taxes.
And that means it doesn't matter if it's about health, if it's about age, if it's about economic status, if it's
economic status. I mean, I'll take that as economic disparity on the board, circling that one. Pardon me. Let me back up a little bit here.
If it's about health, if it's about age, if it's about economic status, if it's about any societal shifts, we all potentially could be affected by these things.
We all could potentially be affected by these things. Health. Yeah, I guess we could all potentially be affected by health.
Which also means that anything that we put into place today could potentially help us tomorrow.
Potentially.
Right?
Why are you asking the audience for affirmation?
Right?
I just, when someone constantly is asking the audience to affirm their own statements and declarations, I get a little cagey. Just a little bit. If you know what I mean. Right? Anyway.
And that also counts for the people that we love. We probably don't want people that we love to be in situations where they potentially lose their job. So they have to leave because the way that their life works no longer fits the company, right?
What are you for crying out loud.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
Utter nonsense at this point. He is flailing. He's got nothing. Nothing.
And we constantly try to make people fit a company, fit a job, when in reality, we have to make that company and that job fit the specific person.
No, that's not it. Okay, how many different directions can a company stretch to accommodate every individual that walks through the door? If I get a job at a company, I am there to fulfill a role as defined by the company for their needs. I get a paycheck for fulfilling my duties in the company to service that role in that company for what they do and what they need to have done. They are not there to constantly reforge themselves around my wants, needs, and desires outside of what is necessary for my job and the company's needs. What are you talking about?
Okay.
No, not okay. No, Mr. Garrison. What are you talking about? Is this your business strategy as a consultant to companies? I'm assuming. Because you talk about having an anti-racist workshop, you talk about being a consultant, or at least alluding to it. Is this the advice you give to companies? Companies need to reform themselves bit by bit in every different way to anyone who walks in the door and demands that their needs be met? Is that how you see a functional company operating? Good gravy. Faustonia, thank you so much. Very much appreciated. The true test of the values attributed to DEI in this sales pitch will be the next recession. It'll be quickly apparent. I'd suggest these people learn how to ask, quote, would you like fries with that, unquote. Yeah, being a DEI consultant, I think it's a higher bar now, and that's in relative terms, but there was a time not so long ago where just saying you were a DEI expert consultant was all you need. I mean, what credentials were out there? The best I ever heard was a degree in organizational psychology. That's the best, marquee credential I ever heard from a DEI consultant. Other than that, if you're an inspirational speaker, you could call yourself a DEI consultant and walk in, because that's about all you need to do. All the money that was promised them in the George Floyd era all the billions of dollars that were allocated and promised in the pursuit of a fairer and equitable society fell by the wayside in the face of the pandemic, of the economy, and the realization that DEI is a losing proposition. It is a money pit. You might as well burn it. If you have a DEI officer, if you have a DEI program, if you're paying for some kind of DEI consultancy, it's a tax write-off at best. Now, this is all nonsense. And again, this guy has got the stage to himself, 10 minutes, unencumbered. And this lackadaisical gobbledygook is the best he's come up with. Okay.
Now, okay, we got this step and you're like, okay, now I understand. It's also important for me, but this doesn't necessarily take away from the fact that somehow this doesn't feel as structural. My life is not just about work. And obviously something that we do at work just can't influence a war somewhere, right?
What? What? I give up. Right? Yeah.
And sure. That's correct. But
why did you say it then? Why did you bring that up? If you don't have it, what? Okay, that's correct. Yeah, you know, my life isn't just my work, and what I do here doesn't necessarily affect a war somewhere, and that's correct. And then,
but at the same time,
oh, what happened? I mute myself. I think I hit my button. Sorry. Yeah, I hit the button on my headphones. I got to back up because I didn't hear whatever you just said. Okay, let's try that again.
And that's correct. But at the same time, as much as we can acknowledge the limitations of DEI, it doesn't take away from the fact that also we spent a significant amount of time at work.
No. What limitations of DEI? Did I fall asleep? Did I miss something? Was I muted at some other point? When did you go over the limitations of DEI? You gave us a chart that showed us all the intrinsic benefits to DEI. I didn't see a chart of the inherent weaknesses of DEI. What? Come on, man. Are you even listening to yourself? So, again, he opened up this talk by saying he rewrote this speech 2 or 3 times because he was trying to get his point across. This was not your first draft, is what you're telling us. And yet here we are. Okay.
Like that also, we spent a significant amount of time at work, roughly a third.
Roughly a third of what? A third of time, of life? Okay.
Time that we spend at work also means that everything we do at work, the way that we are personally developing, the way that we interact with people, the things that we learn, the way that we are conditioned are essentially going to be things that spill over into our private lives.
It depends on what we're talking about. I mean, some people can't not take their work home in some way. You know, if it's like a psychologically demanding job, like a police officer or a medical doctor or something. I'm fortunate enough that for the most part, once my workday is done, I'm done. I don't have to think about it until the next day. But sure, if there's stressors or something from work and I need to, relax or decompress or something, yeah, that's going to carry over into my personal time. I think that's probably true for most people. So you've just laid out a universal truth. Is that supposed to be a revelation?
The way that we are conditioned are essentially going to be things that spill over into our private lives, that spill over into the things that we expect from society, from politics.
What?
Right? So there is always going to be a direct link, and understanding that potential is very important because it might be something that we take back to our communities, whatever that means to you.
What are you talking about? Okay. And Advocatus Diaboli brings up a good point. If not for that just then, but for every other instance so far where I've just been bamboozled, contradicts own point or argument, circling that one on the board. Contradicts own point or leaves out vital context, but also contradicts own point or argument because he's not telling us what's going on. He's not giving us the weaknesses of DEI. He says there's nothing but benefits, and he talks about the the detractors, the weaknesses, and there's nothing there. I am just all sorts of befuddled. Befuddled.
To our communities, whatever that means to you, to our families, to the people that we love, to the places that we move to, it might be something that constantly informs the way that we handle everything on this planet, in this world.
What? It might. You're right. You're right. You're absolutely correct. It might do all of those things. There is a greater than 0% chance that whatever you just said about whatever you're talking about might do things to all the stuff you listed.
So
a needle pulling thread.
basically bringing this back to the question that I asked in the beginning
Oh, I can't even remember what that was. What was the question at the beginning?
is, do I really think that my little anti-racism workshop is going to change the world?
You never even talked about your little anti-racism workshop. You didn't even define anti-racism. I mean, you bring it up in your presentation. You never gave us any idea of what it is for the sake of this presentation. But okay, do you really think your anti-racism workshop is going to change the world? In your heart of hearts, do you think that?
No.
Oh, man. Why are we here, dude? Seriously, what are you doing here? Come on. Come on. End this talk with a personal revelation, please. All right. So your little anti-racism workshop, the activity built upon the foundation of all this nonsense you've talked about, that you've apparently defined, at least in part, your career or something that you're doing and your sense of identity and who all the people you talk to around the world and this, that, and the other. It means nothing's not going to change the world. So your personal ego, cope, defense, rationalization to that understanding is...
I don't think that, but I also don't think that it has to, right?
I don't know. I guess you don't have to think that it has to. If you don't believe in it and you're just doing it to make a buck, then it really doesn't matter what the outcome is, right? But so what keeps you going? If you honestly think that what you were doing will change nothing, if what you were doing has no productive purpose, then how... This is one of those TEDx's where I feel like we are inside the mind of the speaker. We're not being given a presentation from an expert so much as we are witnessing the cognitive dissonance of the person speaking played out on a stage that is going on abstractly in their mind all the time. But anyway, okay, so what you're doing is going to have zero meaningful effect in the world. And
it's about the cumulative effect of like all of these small and big things that are intentional, right? And it's also about understanding that each workshop, each conversation, each measure that we have in terms of DEI is going to potentially benefit that process. So,
I mean, that is a kind of cope. Is what I'm doing going to have any effect? No. But, you know, it's ripples in the pond, everybody. It's little pebbles. Each one of my workshops is a little pebble that by itself probably won't have an effect. But it's the cumulative effect. If I keep doing it over and over and over and over again, I'm sure at some point what I'm doing will build up into an avalanche of pebbles and really change things. It's not the definition of insanity. No, it's incremental additions to the overall good. Whatever helps you sleep at night.
So what I would like to leave you with is, let us embrace DEI not as the ultimate solution,
certainly not a final solution,
but as a critical component of a larger mosaic of structural change that benefits everyone.
Sure. I mean, I guess I could be left with that thought, whatever that means.
What the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Right?
Either now or in the future. Thank you.
All right. Well, DEI as a catalyst for what? I don't know. Fostering systemic change, which it won't and can't because he just admitted that it doesn't. And embracing the world's complexity. Well, I don't know about the world's complexity so much as the complexity of this presentation and trying to find a point. But I guess them's the breaks, as it were. Okay, well, let's move on to the bingo card. Shall we? Ay, caramba. All right, so this, after I update it, is the bingo card as I have it. I'm going to go over it one more time by myself. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, please hold on to them. Excuse me, and I'll get to you presently. Collectivize his own demographic. I don't know that he ever did. No, I don't think so. Sales pitch for product or service. Well, his anti-racism workshop, his consultation services, it wasn't, as far as I'm concerned, an effective sales pitch, but he did advertise his vocation and services while there. Childhood or family anecdote. No, he referred to families in the abstract here and there, but he never talked about specifically his growing up or his family or anything like that. So I don't think no. Plays victim. Plays victim. I could see maybe some creative arguments there, but I never got the sense that he made himself the victim of anything. Except maybe in the sense of having difficulty convincing people of the value of DEI. But I don't know if that's victimhood so much. I don't know. I might need someone. Microaggressions or unconscious bias. Not that I recall, even abstractly. Privilege. Yes, that he did say at one point that certain groups would benefit over others, etc., which is, basically the definition of privilege. So certainly that one. Patriarchy. He never brought up any kind of gender wars stuff. I mean, he kept saying DEI and diversity and so on, but as far as I can recall, he never got down to the specifics of the elements that diversity values or criticized, old school structures for having too many white men on this, that, or that. So I don't think so. Weightless example. Boy, can I count the ways? His anti-racism workshop, which he never detailed, he never talked about. DEI weaknesses. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be an overlap here between weightless example and argumentative non sequitur, because there were so many just unfinished thoughts and threads never explained. Feminism, again, he never gave us a gender wars kind of thing. There wasn't a graph showing some kind of disparity between the genders or anything like that. And I don't think so. White supremacy, once again, both like with patriarchy, feminism, white supremacy, he never got down to brass tacks. Self-vilification or wretchedness. Now, I could see an argument wherein his admission that his anti-racist workshop and his efforts thereof doing nothing or having only a tiny effect might be seen as self-vilification or wretchedness. I could see an argument for it. I don't know if it works, because I'm trying to think of anything in the course of this presentation where he was self-reflective and diminished himself other than that. But he followed it up with a belief that, it was a cumulative effect, that it was, like I say, one pebble amongst the landslide. So I don't know. I might need something. Argumentative non sequitur, yeah, just all over the place. The line between weightless example and argumentative non sequitur is blurred here because he was so non-specific with so many things. But a lot of things he brought up went nowhere and did nothing and absolutely added nothing to his presentation. Attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase. No, I didn't, except for whatever DEIS means, but he never told us, so I can't tell. He very pointedly skipped over that one, which I'm disappointed about. Mind reading or assumes motives. I know the answer is yes, but I'm blanking on a good example off the cuff. Yeah, I might need some help with that one. Benevolent condescension. Honestly, the DEI definition. Let me tell you what DEI means. DEI means diversity, equity, and inclusion, because you want to diversify your workforce and bring equity to the workplace. And you want to include everybody in the process. That kind of thing. And also with those inspirational quotes that went nowhere. So, yeah, I'm going to circle that one. And as a consequence of that,
I had a dog, and his name was...
What?
I had a dog, and his name was...
Bingo!
Of course!
All right, so our first bingo, anecdote that probably never happened. Did he give any clear anecdotes? People asking him all the time, what is the use of DEI, more or less? I might be paraphrasing. I mean, I could believe people asking him that. Actually, you know what? Anecdote that never happened? That list of inherent benefits. If for no other reason that part of his foundation for it was McKinsey. So, yeah, somehow DEI does all of these things. No, I don't believe it. Don't believe it. I need proof, not just you saying so. All right, so there is the card as I have it. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, let me know in the chat now, and I will entertain them as we go. I'll scroll up a little bit, and let's see. Advocates Diaboli. He did somewhat collectivize both people who are for and against DEI programs and whatnot when he went over complaints against it specifically. Yeah, his own demographic. It has to be something a bit more specific than that. I don't know. I don't know that. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I might need some help with that one. Advocates again, went through all your TEDx, and I don't think you did access and inclusion. You did do one about numbers aren't representation, but that is a different presentation. I am. All right. Well, now I have to prove it. Hold on, because I am 100% sure I did do that TEDx with Antonio. I think his name was Anthony Jacks. I think it was Anthony Jacks. Hold on a moment. Okay, I got to scrolling. Keep that playlist scrolling. Boy, my ass is swollen. Rawhide. There it is. TED Excellence, affirmative action. I didn't have to go far. I did not have to go far. Hold on one second here. There we go. Anthony Jack. All right. Let me make sure that this is the right link. Over in a different window just to verify. And yes, there it is. I'll put the link in the chat now if you're curious about that previous TED Excellence. There it is for the Anthony Jack presentation. Just to prove you wrong, Advocatus. There you go. Let's see. Shadowclaw, S is sustainability. I was right. I just guessed. I hadn't heard of it before, but when it came up, I was like, what could S mean? Does it mean sustainability? I was right. So, you know what that... Yep, there we go. I was right. I am so smart. SMRT. Advocates again. He heavily implied people against DEI were simply motivated by wanting to slow progress. Yeah, but that, again, demographic. Demographic classically means, I represent all women, or I represent, or as a black person, or something like that. And I don't, not quite sure that that passes muster. I'm happy to entertain a different argument or a different framing of it, but I don't think it quite gets there. And I know it's not even a bingo square, but I at the same time just gotta make sure. Gotta make sure. Shadow Claw, DEI equals Hydra for trying to prevent a crisis before it happens. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it keeps, you cut off one head and like 3 grow back or whatever. If you defeat an argument with 1 letter in the litany, they have to add on 2 more. Scribelight. No, I meant for mind reading. Oh, mind reading. Oh, I thought you were still on Oh, okay. My apologies. I thought you were on still on demographic. Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yes. Anybody who was not with DEI is just okay. I got you. Okay. Fair enough. I got it. All right. Any other arguments for squares to be circled? Let's see. Matthew James, this is getting painful. Yeah, I know. I'm a taskmaster with these things. I know. Of course, his talk was so all over the place and so amorphous in point making that it's difficult to latch onto some of these because it was very repetitive too. So, any other arguments for squares to be circled? Squizzles, what mayhem have I waltzed on into this time? Well, it was the Sunday stream. We're just about done, I think. A few funny articles to take our minds off current terrible events, and then a TED Excellence to make up for the TED Excellence that will not be happening this coming Thursday because I will be out of town. And so I thought I'd do a supplementary TED Excellence for those of you out there that really need your TEDx fix. Yeah, this talk was pretty disjointed. Yeah. And again, he told us at the top that this was apparently like his 2nd or 3rd revision of his talk. They went over it several times and wasn't sure how to put it and everything else. Like, okay, well, I think you need to go back to the proverbial drawing board, dude, because this did nothing for your case, whatever your case was. Yeah, no talking about terrible events, but looking at terrible TED Talks. Hey, it's better than real life, right? I think I'm going to call it. Oh, whoops, hold on. Mike R. Going any place nice? Hopefully so. I think so. I'm going to be visiting a friend and be out of town. And hopefully it'll be good. I know I'm being cagey. There's certain elements of my real life I try to keep a little private, but nothing major. I had a question offline from somebody yesterday if I was taking a trip in relation to my family troubles, and that's not it. Nope, this is planned in advance of the worst of recent events in that case, and so this is just a hopefully nice, relaxing getaway, go on an adventure, get out of my bubble for a little while because, man, again, I haven't taken an actual vacation from work in the better part, if not more of a decade. And consequently, I haven't been all that far from home for any meaningful amount of time in that time. Of course, the pandemic sliced off about 3 years out of that era as well. But yeah, I'm actually going away from home for a while. And hopefully I'll come back refreshed and with a new perspective on things and maybe some new ideas for stuff. Who knows? We'll see. Cheshire Murph. Or Cheshire Smurf, pardon me. He's setting up an alibi for something. You shush your dirty mouth. You just stop. Do you want to be called as a character witness at the? No, there will be no. No name. Take care of yourself. Enjoy the break. You've earned it. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I hope I do. It'll be hopefully a nice getaway, distraction, and then I'll come back and I'll have a whole week left over of my 2-week vacation to do my regular stuff. I'm going to try to do other streams, maybe some interviews. I've got my Living on Borrowed Crime thing. By the way, Living on Borrowed Crime, July 26th, Friday, July 26th, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be discussing the criticisms and critiques of true crime as a genre. And scheduled to appear Matt Orchard, Dave's Lemonade, Misery Machine, Mr. Black Pasta, and True Red Crime. So at least 5 so far scheduled. There may be more. I don't know. We'll see. But holding out for that one. That's going to be a good time and interesting for those of you interested in that. I'll have a link for that up after I get back. So I'll have that all set up then, because I still have to do a little bit of work on behind the scenes. I'll probably be making some notes on my trip to get myself clarified, because I want to make sure I get this one right. This is going to be a complicated presentation, one that, if done wrong, could become contentious, and that's not the point. So I'm going to do my best to craft it in the proper fashion. Anyway, everybody, I want to thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Sunday morning. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated, either to myself or to those of you, sorry, I got distracted for a second, either to myself or to the fundraisers at the top of the chat box. Thank you so much for your generosity. Really, really do appreciate it. Also, did you know I have a Discord server? I think maybe you might know that I have a Discord server. If you'd like to join the Discord server, well, let me get you a link to that Discord server, which I totally prepared before the show started, and didn't just now decide that I needed to create one all of a sudden just as the stream was ending. Oh yeah, there you go. There's the link in the chat there. Click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me you're not a bot, are actually a person, and have earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is mustaches. Yes, mustaches. We'll go back to the first article I read, mustaches. Say hello, mustaches, and I'll know that you watched the show. Everybody, take a deep breath. These next few days and weeks are probably going to be pretty stressful given the tempo of the last couple of days. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. I hope you have a nice and safe week ahead of you. I hope you are all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.